London, a city that has been the center of the world for centuries. A city of red buses, black cabs, Big Ben, and incredible history around every single corner. And today we're counting down the top 4 places you absolutely must visit in London. We're kicking things off with a place that is without a doubt one of the most iconic, most dramatic, and most fascinating landmarks, not just in London, but in the entire world. I'm talking about the Tower of London. Now, if you think this is just an old castle, oh, you are in for a surprise. The Tower of London has been standing on the north bank of the River Thames for nearly 1,000 years. It was built all the way back in 1078 by William the Conqueror, right after the Norman conquest of England. And in that time, this place has been a royal palace, a fortress, a prison, a place of execution, a treasury, a zoo, an armory, and today it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yeah, this building has had more careers than most people could dream of. Let's talk about what makes this place so special and why it absolutely deserves a spot on your London bucket list. The moment you walk through those gates, you feel it. There is something heavy in the air. Centuries of stories, of power, of tragedy. The tower isn't just a building, it's basically a small medieval city covering around 4.9 hectares, surrounded by a massive stone wall and a dry moat. The centerpiece is the White Tower, the original Norman keep that William the Conqueror built. It stands at 90 feet tall, and even by today's standards, it's an imposing sight. Step inside, and you will find one of the finest displays of royal armor and weapons in the world, including a suit of armor actually made for King Henry VIII. The man was large, to say the least. But here is what most tourists come to see, and honestly, it lives up to every bit of the hype: the crown jewels. Unfortunately, we couldn't provide you the images of crown jewels, as these images weren't the license free images, so you could just search in the Google these images, the images of crown jewels. Crown jewels kept here in the tower in the Jewel House. The crown jewels are the official regalia of the British monarchy, and they are absolutely breathtaking. We're talking tiaras, sceptres, orbs, and crowns encrusted with some of the most famous gemstones on the planet. The Imperial State Crown alone contains 2,800 diamonds, and sitting right at its heart is a ruby that was worn by King Henry V at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415. There are moving walkways that carry you past these treasures, because trust me, people would stand there all day otherwise. Now, no visit to the Tower of London is complete without meeting the Yeoman Warders, better known as the Beefeaters. The images you are seeing are of the Yeoman Warders or Beefeaters. These are ceremonial guardians of the tower, and they have been here since the 15th century. Dressed in their iconic Tudor uniforms, red and gold, they are not just for show. These are retired members of the British Armed Forces with at least 22 years of service. They live here right inside the tower walls, and they give some of the most entertaining and genuinely informative guided tours you will ever experience. They will tell you stories that no history book quite captures: gruesome, funny, and everything in between. And then there is the dark side of the tower, because for all its grandeur, this place has seen some of the history's most dramatic and chilling moments. See that entrance right on the waterfront. That's the Traitor's Gate. Prisoners accused of treason were brought here by boat from the River Thames. Among those who passed through it were Anne Boleyn, the second wife of Henry VIII, and Sir Thomas More. Neither of them made it out alive. Two young princes, Edward V and his brother Richard, are believed to have been murdered in the 1480s. Their bones were actually discovered in the tower centuries later. Even Lady Jane Grey, queen for just 9 days, was executed here at just 17 years old. This place doesn't just have history, it is history. And speaking of legends, keep your eyes open for the ravens. There is an old legend that says if the ravens of the Tower of London ever leave, the crown and the kingdom will fall. King Charles II took that seriously enough to decree by royal command that at least 6 ravens must be kept at the tower at all times. Today, the tower has around 8 to 10 ravens, and they have their own official caretaker, the Raven Master, one of the most wonderfully unique job titles in the world. The ravens are surprisingly large, surprisingly bold, and honestly a bit mischievous. Don't get too close to your snacks. So, here is my honest take on the Tower of London. It's one of those rare places that genuinely delivers on its reputation. Whether you're into history, architecture, royal drama, or just want to see some of the most spectacular jewels ever assembled in one room, this place has it all. Plan for at least 2 to 3 hours. There is a lot to see. Grab tickets online in advance to skip the queues, especially in summer. And if you can, catch one of the Yeoman Warder tours. They run throughout the day and they are absolutely worth it. The Tower of London, 1,000 years old, still standing, still stunning, and still one of the greatest places on earth. That's place number one, and we're just getting started. Stay with us because the next stop on our London list is just as incredible. Alright, place number one gave us 1,000 years of royal history, dark secrets, and dazzling jewels. Now, place number two is something you have seen on postcards, on movie posters, on the covers of travel magazines, and yet standing in front of it in real life hits completely different. Welcome to Tower Bridge, London, arguably the most recognizable bridge on the planet. Now, here is something that surprises a lot of people. Tower Bridge is not London Bridge. I know, it's a mix up that's been going on for decades. London Bridge is actually the plain, simple one further up the Thames. This beauty, with the two Gothic towers, the blue steel, and the jaw dropping Victorian architecture, this is Tower Bridge. And once you see it up close, there is absolutely no chance you would confuse it with anything plain or simple. Let's go back to where it all began. By the 1870s, London was booming. The East End was growing rapidly, and the existing bridges further west were causing massive congestion. The city desperately needed a new river crossing, but it couldn't just be any bridge. It had to allow tall ships to pass through, because the Pool of London, the stretch of river right here, was one of the busiest points in the entire world. So in 1884, after an open design competition, the project was awarded to Sir Horace Jones, the city architect, working alongside engineer Sir John Wolfe Barry. Construction began that same year, and it took 8 years, 5 major contractors, and over 400 workers to complete. Tower Bridge finally opened on the 30th of June 1894, and London has never looked the same since. And when you get up close, the engineering and the artistry of this bridge are simply extraordinary. Tower Bridge is a combined bascule and suspension bridge, stretching 244 meters across the Thames. Those two iconic towers stand 65 meters tall, and the whole structure is clad in Cornish granite and Portland stone, giving it that grand Gothic Victorian look that makes it feel less like infrastructure and more like a cathedral rising out of the river. But here is what makes Tower Bridge truly special. It's not just beautiful, it opens. The two central sections, called bascules from the French word for seesaw, can lift up to a 86-degree angle to allow tall vessels to pass through. When it was first built, those bascules were powered by steam-driven hydraulic engines. Today, it's all electric, but the bridge still opens around 800 to 1,000 times every single year. If you're lucky enough to witness a bridge lift during your visit, and you very well might be, it is genuinely one of the coolest things you will see in London. Now, here is where your visit goes from great to absolutely unforgettable, and most tourists don't even realize this is possible. You can go inside Tower Bridge. The Tower Bridge exhibition lets you climb up into those iconic towers and walk across the high level walkways, suspended 42 meters above the River Thames. And here is the twist, parts of the floor up there are made of glass. Yes, you're standing over 40 meters in the air, looking straight down through a transparent floor at the river, the boats, the traffic, and the city below. It is thrilling, it is slightly terrifying, and it is 100% worth it. The views from up there are some of the best in all of London. You can see the Tower of London, the Shard, the Gherkin, the city skyline, and the Thames stretching out in both directions. Bring your camera, your phone storage will not survive this. And there is more down in the South Tower. You will find the Victorian engine rooms, where the original steam powered machinery that once operated the bridge is still on display. These massive engines, the boilers, the accumulators, these have been beautifully preserved and restored. Walking through them feels like stepping back into the Industrial Revolution. There are interactive exhibits that explain exactly how everything worked, and it's genuinely fascinating, even if engineering isn't really your thing. The whole Tower Bridge exhibition is family friendly, brilliantly curated, and takes around 60 to 90 minutes to explore properly. But even if you don't go inside, just being on Tower Bridge is an experience. Walk across it, stop in the middle, look east, look west, watch the boats on the Thames, the skyline in every direction, the city bustling all around you. There is a reason photographers, filmmakers, and travelers from every corner of the world come here. It's one of those views that genuinely makes you feel the scale and the history and the energy of London all at once. And here is a little tip. If you want the most spectacular photo of Tower Bridge, head to Butler's Wharf on the south bank, just east of the bridge. The view from there, especially at sunrise or just after sunset, when the bridge lights up, absolutely cinematic. Tower Bridge, built in Victorian era, loved by the entire world, and still as breathtaking today as the day it opened over 130 years ago. This is not just a bridge, it's a masterpiece of engineering, of architecture, and of everything that makes London one of the greatest cities on earth. That's place number 2, ticked off the list. 2 down, 2 to go. Stay with us because this list is only getting better. Place number 1 gave us a fortress of royal power and dark secrets. Place number 2 gave us one of the most iconic bridges ever built. And now place number 3 takes us somewhere that sits at the absolute heart of British history, British identity, and British soul. This is Westminster Abbey, and there is simply nowhere else on earth quite like it. The moment you lay eyes on Westminster Abbey, you stop. You just stop. Because even before you know a single thing about this building, it commands your attention completely. These soaring Gothic towers, the intricate stone carvings, the sheer scale of it, standing right in the heart of London, flanked by the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben. Westminster Abbey doesn't just sit in the center of city, it is the center. Spiritually, historically, symbolically, this is the beating heart of Britain. Let's talk about just how old and how significant this place really is. There has been a church on this site since at least the 10th century, but the abbey as we know it today was largely built by King Henry III, beginning in the 1245. He wanted to create a church worthy of a saint, specifically Edward the Confessor, the Anglo-Saxon king who was buried here and later canonized. What Henry III started, generations of monarchs continued. The building evolved over centuries, new chapels added, towers raised, details refined, until it became the breathtaking Gothic masterpiece you see today. And for nearly 1,000 years, Westminster Abbey has stood at the center of the most important moments in British royal history. Because here is the thing that makes Westminster Abbey truly unlike any other building in the world. Every single English and British monarch since 1066, with just 2 exceptions, has been crowned right here. Every one of them. William the Conqueror, Henry VIII, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth II, and most recently King Charles III, crowned here in May 2023. There is almost 40 coronations in this one building, spanning nearly 1,000 years of history. The coronation chair, one of the oldest pieces of furniture in Britain, built around 1300, still sits inside the abbey. Monarchs have been seated in that very chair at their coronations for over 700 years. Sitting in the presence of something like that, you genuinely feel the weight of history pressing down on you. And then you step inside, and the exterior. as magnificent as it is, has not prepared you for what's within. The interior of Westminster Abbey is one of the most awe inspiring spaces in the entire world. The nave soars to a height of 31 meters, the tallest Gothic nave in England. The vaulted ceilings, the towering columns, the light filtering through centuries old stained glass windows. It's the kind of space that makes you instinctively lower your voice and slow your step. But what you will quickly realize is that almost every inch of this abbey is also a memorial, because Westminster Abbey is the resting place of some of the most extraordinary human beings who ever lived. Over 3,300 people are buried or memorialized within these walls. Kings and queens, yes, but also scientists, poets, musicians, soldiers, and statesmen who shaped the modern world. Walk to the south transept and you will find Poets' Corner, where Geoffrey Chaucer, Charles Dickens, Rudyard Kipling, and Alfred Lord Tennyson are among those commemorated. Nearby, you will find memorials to William Shakespeare and Jane Austen. Head to the nave floor and you will be walking over the grave of Sir Isaac Newton. Yes, the man who gave us the laws of gravity is buried right beneath your feet. Close by lies Charles Darwin, the father of the theory of evolution, and in the very center of the nave, marked simply with a plain black stone, is the tomb of the unknown warrior, an unidentified British soldier from World War One, buried here in the 1920 to represent the hundreds of thousands who fell and were never identified. It's one of the most quietly powerful memorials you will ever encounter. No king buried here commands more reverence than this unknown soldier. And if you think you have seen everything, make sure you find your way to the Henry VII Lady Chapel at the very eastern end of the abbey. Built between 1503 and 1519, it is widely considered one of the finest examples of late Gothic architecture anywhere in the world. The fan vaulted ceiling is so intricate, so impossibly detailed that it looks less like stonework and more like lace carved from solid rock. Henry VII is buried here alongside his wife Elizabeth of York, and the chapel is still used today as a chapel of the Order of Bath, one of the Britain's most ancient orders of the chivalry. It is stunning beyond words. Here's my honest advice for your visit. Set aside a minimum of 2 hours, and if you are someone who loves history, give yourself even a longer. There is so much to take in, so many stories layered into every corner, that rushing through it might be doing yourself a disservice. Audio guides are available and absolutely recommended. They bring the space to life in a way that's hard to replicate on your own. And if you can, try to attend one of the choral services. The abbey is still an active working church, and hearing the choir sing beneath those vaulted ceilings is an experience that stays with you long after you have left London. Book your tickets online in advance, especially in peak season. And remember, this is a place of worship as much as it is a landmark. Dress respectfully, speak softly, and take a moment to simply be in the space. It rewards stillness. Westminster Abbey, 1,000 years of coronations, of burial, of history, of faith, a place where the greatest figures of British civilization rest side by side, kings beside poets, scientists beside soldiers, the celebrated beside the unknown. You don't just visit Westminster Abbey, you experience it, and it will stay with you long after you have returned home. That's place number 3, and what a place it is. One more to go. Stay with us because we have saved something truly special for last. We started this list with a fortress that has stood for 1,000 years. We crossed the most iconic bridge in the world. We walked the hollowed floors of Westminster Abbey. And now, for our final stop, we go somewhere that has watched over this city through plague, through fire, through war, and through triumph. This is St. Paul's Cathedral, and it is the perfect way to close out our top 4 places you must absolutely visit in London. There is a moment as you walk up Ludgate Hill towards St. Paul's, where the dome appears above the rooftops and just keeps rising and rising and rising until you're standing at the bottom of those steps, craning your neck upward and thinking, how on earth did they build this? St. Paul's Cathedral is one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. That magnificent dome, the second largest cathedral dome on the planet, after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, has defined the London skyline for over 300 years. It is a symbol of the city in the same way the Eiffel Tower is a symbol of Paris or the Colosseum is a symbol of Rome. But the story behind it, even more remarkable than the building itself. Because St. Paul's Cathedral was born from destruction, there has been a cathedral on that site since 604 AD, nearly 1500 years ago. But in September 1666, the Great Fire of London tore through the city for 4 devastating days, destroying over 13,000 houses and 87 churches, including the old medieval St. Paul's Cathedral, which was consumed entirely by the flames. Out of that ash and devastation, King Charles II commissioned a new cathedral, and the man chosen to design it would go on to create one of the greatest buildings in the human history. His name was Sir Christopher Wren. Christopher Wren was already one of the most brilliant minds in England, an astronomer, a mathematician, an architect of extraordinary vision. The rebuilding of St. Paul's became the defining work of his life. Construction began in 1675 and was completed in 1710. 35 years of work. Wren was 78 years old when it was finished. He lived to see his masterpiece completed, and he is buried within its walls. His epitaph, inscribed in Latin on the floor of the crypt, translates simply as, "Reader, if you seek his monument, look around you. There are few more perfect epitaphs ever written." Step through the doors of St. Paul's and the scale of it hits you immediately. The interior stretches 175 meters from end to end. The nave draws your eyes upwards towards the dome ceiling, decorated with stunning mosaics depicting scenes of biblical figures, gold, blue, and rich color glowing in the light. The marble floors, the carved wooden choir, stalls by master craftsman Grinling Gibbons, the wrought ironwork by Jean Tijot. Every detail was designed and executed at the absolute highest level of craftsmanship. This is not just a church, it is a work of art from floor to dome. Now, here is the part of St. Paul's visit that you absolutely cannot skip: the Whispering Gallery. Inside the base of the dome, there is a circular gallery that runs all the way around the interior, 259 steps up from the cathedral floor, and this gallery has one of the most extraordinary acoustic phenomena we will ever experience. If you whisper, and I mean whisper, against the wall on one side of the gallery, someone standing on the completely opposite side, 34 meters away, can hear you as clearly as if you were standing right next to them. The curved walls carry the sound perfectly around the entire circumference of the dome. It sounds like a magic trick. It is actually physics, and it is absolutely wonderful. Bring someone with you, stand on the opposite sides, and whisper to each other across the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. It's one of those small, perfect travel moments you will never forget. But if you have got the energy, and I promise you, it is worth every single step, keep climbing. Above the Whispering Gallery is the Stone Gallery, and above that, at the very top, is the Golden Gallery, 528 steps from the ground floor, sitting at 85 meters above street level. And the view from up there, 360 degrees of London, the Thames glittering below, the Shard piercing the sky to the south, the towers of Canary Wharf to the east, the green expanse of Hyde Park to the west. The entire city laid out before you like a living map. On a clear day, you can see for 40 kilometers in every direction. It is without question one of the greatest views in Europe. And before you leave, make your way down to the crypt. St. Paul's Crypt is the largest in Europe, and it is the resting place of some of the Britain's most celebrated figures. Admiral Lord Nelson, the hero of the Battle of the Trafalgar, lies here in a magnificent black sarcophagus originally made for Cardinal Wolsey. The Duke of Wellington, who defeated Napoleon at Waterloo, is entombed here beneath an enormous monument. GMW Turner, one of the greatest painters Britain ever produced, is buried here. And of course, Sir Christopher Wren himself, the man who built it all, rests quietly in the crypt of his own masterpiece. Walking through this crypt, you are in the presence of the people who literally shaped the modern world. And through all of it, through everything London has endured, St. Paul's has stood. During World War II, the Blitz rained bombs on London for 57 consecutive nights. The city burned around. St. Paul's bombs fell on the cathedral itself, damaging the high altar, destroying the north transept, and yet the dome, that dome, remained standing. There is a photograph from December 1940 that became one of the most famous images of the entire war. St. Paul's dome rising through clouds of smoke and fire, defiant and unbroken while the city blazed around it. That image became a symbol of British resilience, of the refusal to be broken. Winston Churchill himself gave the order St. Paul's must be saved, and it was saved. Here, what I want you to take away from St. Paul's Cathedral. Yes, the architecture is world class. Yes, the dome is extraordinary. Yes, the views from the top are breathtaking, and the Whispering Gallery is magical, and the crypt is humbling. But more than all of that, St. Paul's is a building that carries the spirit of London within its walls. It has witnessed the city at its most devastated and at its most triumphant. It has hosted the funerals of heroes and the celebrations of a nation. It stood through fire and war and came out the other side still standing, still magnificent, still watching over the city. Plan at least 2 to 3 hours for your visit. Book tickets online in advance. Climb to the Golden Gallery if your legs allow it. You will not regret it for a single second. And take a quiet moment in the nave, beneath that incredible dome, to simply look up and appreciate what human hands and one extraordinary human mind created here over 300 years ago. St. Paul's Cathedral, born from fire, built by genius, shaped by history, and still, after more than 3 centuries, the most magnificent sight on the London skyline. And that is place number 4. So there you have it, the top 4 places you must visit in London. The Tower of London, Tower Bridge, Westminster Abbey, and St. Paul's Cathedral. 4 places, 4 incredible stories, 1 extraordinary city. If you're planning a trip to London, these 4 stops are non negotiable. Put them on your list. Give each one the time it deserves, and I promise you, London will blow your mind. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe for more travel content, and drop a comment below. Which of these 4 places would you visit first? Until next time, safe travels and keep exploring.